Also, and this is pretty obvious, but giving all this power to one company is a bad thing to do, especially when it's Disney, a corporation that has famously abused its power in the past. When the LA Times wrote a piece criticizing their business operations in California, Disney banned them from early screenings of their films. They've habitually shut out small theater chains due to their extreme demands for playing their films, often asking for a much larger portion of ticket sales and guaranteed 4 weeks of screen time in the largest auditoriums. And as they grow larger, their extortions and demands will be harder and harder to boycott. They've changed laws to keep Mickey out of public domain, and once convinced Florida to let them build a nuclear power plant. They are bullies. But it's okay, because The Simpsons made fun of how they are corporate overlords. It's fine, because we're getting a bunch of new Star Wars and Marvel films. Isn't that fantastic, you guys? Like, we all know that Disney is evil, but we just kind of joke about it and move on. We all go see the movies because how can we not? And they know this, and don't even need to think about how well a franchise is doing, opting to just flat out tell us that they're shoving out an endless parade of Avatar and Star Wars films until the sun explodes. Films that, even as I say this, I will probably go see, because life is crushing without occasionally watching a make-believe story projected in a big fancy room. Like, holy crap, they are remaking The Lion King shot for shot, not paying the original writers, and will probably make $1 billion doing it. And this is just one aspect of this company. There's so much more to talk about the moment we factor in streaming and the internet. Specifically, what's going to happen once Disney rolls out Disney Plus and begins pulling their content from other services, and what other companies will have to do to compete with their giant library of films and TV shows. Companies that, unlike Disney, own internet service providers, the things that were just given way more power via the repeal of net neutrality. This could gradually create a cluster where certain companies are given better access than others, and the entertainment we love will just continue to splinter off into smaller services. NBC, for example, is starting its own streaming service, giving them little reason to keep their shows on the now Disney-owned Hulu. And since NBC is merged with Comcast, they could give that new service a preferential treatment, bundling it with cable subscriptions. There's nothing stopping AT&T Time Warner from doing the same for HBO. Meanwhile, Netflix is looking into buying theaters for some f***ing reason I just don't have the energy to get into. It's a sloppy mess. But just to be clear, streaming is absolutely the future of entertainment and is objectively a great thing. The real meaning of the word great, there's no denying that. Being able to watch theatrical style content while not wearing pants is a wonderful thing we no longer have to be arrested for doing. But we're at a point where the government hasn't really done anything to regulate the transition, and these giant companies are largely left to do whatever they want. And what makes it especially scary is that the huge companies creating the content are the same ones in charge of our access to the content. It's a system where essentially the movie theater is also creating the entertainment and is going to shut out more unique and independent films and limit access for consumers. The reason I know this is because it was absolutely what happened back when film studios were allowed to own their own cinemas. This was changed back in the 40s when the Supreme Court forced major movie companies to divest themselves of their theater chains. Before that point, the studios either owned large chains or strong-armed indie theaters into contracts requiring them to show a given number of films. This created a system where only 7 studios were able to successfully make films, while smaller companies constantly struggled to compete. And so indie studios formed the Society of Independent Motion Picture Producers and helped push the government to pursue it as an antitrust case. Ironically, one of the founders of the group was Walt Disney himself, a man who, as you might remember, had a brother who f***ed at least one time. Hey, thanks for watching that clip. Here's the evergreen end plate to ask you to like and subscribe. It's any day of the year where you are.